1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome to Phuture Doctors. My name's Stephanie and I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the research that takes place in academic institutions, as well as the awesome graduate students behind the work. Did you know there's quite a bit of research that takes place before products, technologies, and processes are implemented into our day-to-day life? Today we're going to talk about how fundamental research can actually evolve into applied research with the production of televisions. Companies are asking, how can we make really vivid televisions with sharp images without wasting so much energy? These types of questions are actually going to fall under applied research. Current LCD TVs are actually made up of a blue backlight with a layer of yellow phosphorus over, and this combination ends up producing a white light. This white light passes through red, green, and blue filters, where the different intensity of the light ends up creating all the colors that we see on our screens. There's actually a new technology that has been developed where they replace the yellow phosphorus layer with a new nanomaterial called quantum dots. So instead of filtering the blue backlight, this backlight ends up becoming a source of light for the quantum dots. They use red and green quantum dots. So with the blue, the combination of that ends up creating a white light. But this white light is actually a lot purer and a lot brighter. So we're actually able to create vivid colors and brighter colors while using less energy. Before this nanomaterial can be implemented, there needed to be fundamental research to take place in order for us to actually understand the material before we can apply it to any type of system. So let's start off with asking, what is a quantum dot? Quantum dots are semiconductor materials that can partially conduct electricity. But what makes them special? When two or more atoms bind together, they form a molecule. The number of energy levels depends on the number of atoms within the molecule. On the other hand, imagine a bulk semiconductor. This semiconductor is made up of thousands of atoms, which result in their energy levels to appear as thick bands because there is a high density of high and low energy levels. The number of atoms in a quantum dots are somewhere in the middle between the molecule and the bulk semiconductor. Their energy levels resembles the combination of the two. The gap you see between the energy levels allows them to absorb light, which can then be used as current, for example as in solar panels, or they can release energy in the form of light. Changing the diameter of the quantum dot allows us to tune the size of the gap, which then controls the color that they emit. As the diameter of the quantum dot decreases, the wavelength of light increases. Because of this special property is why companies are implementing them into their televisions. Now that we have a general understanding of what quantum dots are, the next step is to make this material.
Alright guys, so we're actually in a nanoparticle synthesis lab that has specialized in making quantum dots. The process in which you usually make this material is called soluble thermal synthesis, where solvent and thermal energy is an essential part of this process in order to make this material. I'm going to take you step by step on how we make these quantum dots, with first measuring our reagents and recording them in our lab notebook. Second is setting up our apparatus in the hood so it's in a safe environment. Third is removing any source of oxygen or air from our system so it doesn't contaminate our quantum dots. And lastly is actually inducing our energy, which is increasing the temperature in order to make our nanoparticles. So the first step was to measure our reagents and record them in a lab notebook. So we're going to head over to the balance to do so. Because I have written down exactly what chemicals I'm going to be using and how much I need, I can then start with our first step in measuring out the reagents we need for our synthesis. There are 4 major reagents used in synthesizing quantum dots. So what we first made out was our metal salt, which is cadmium marestate. So next is our selenium source, because we're making cadmium selenide. And at last we need our ligand source. So moving on to the second step, we got to set up our experiment. What we have here is a fume hood. The fume hood allows us to have a controlled and safe environment to conduct our experiments, so we're not exposing ourselves to anything harmful again. So let's finish setting up our reaction, and then I'm going to go ahead and start adding our reagents one by one. Because this is a soluble thermal synthesis, we need solvent. So now we're going to open up our reaction to vacuum. So while this is degassing, let's take a deeper look into the science behind making nanoparticles.
Recall the 3 reagents we measured out earlier. Depicted here is our metal salt, cadmium marestate, our anion source, selenium dioxide, and our ligand source, which are all dissolved in our solvent. This is the clear yellow solution we see here. As the temperature continues to increase, the metal salt and anion source begin to dissociate into cadmium and selenide ions. The cadmium and selenide ions then become attracted to each other to form a monomer. This monomer makes it more favorable to combine with other ions to start forming a bigger structure. and become a quantum dot. But in the presence of the ligand, the quantum dots remain small as the ligands prevent the quantum dots to grow into a large crystal. These ligands also help stabilize the quantum dots and maintain them in solution. So as we increase the number of quantum dots in solution, we see our solution change to an orange-red, showing a successful synthesis of the quantum dots. We then clean our quantum dots, leaving us with this clear orange-red solution. When the right wavelength of light is absorbed, we promote the emission properties of the quantum dots. Here, our source of light has a wavelength of 648 nanometers, and our quantum dots are emitting a wavelength of 600 nanometers. As a result, we see a bright orange color.
So now that we've finished synthesizing the quantum dots, we need to image them in order to figure out their size, shape, composition, and structure.
We are using a transmission electron microscope to image the quantum dots. In contrast to optical microscopes that use white light, this uses an electron beam to image particles in the micro to nanometer range. So what you see here is where we house the particles for imaging. This is made up of a lacy carbon film that is held by a copper grid, which holds a sample of our quantum dots. We place this grid into our microscope and use a special program to capture images of our quantum dots. Here is an image of our quantum dots. The image provides us with information on their size and shape, where the quantum dots we synthesized are spherical in geometry and are around 3 nanometers in diameter. The program that we use can also tell us the makeup of our quantum dots. This spectra confirms the fact that our quantum dots are made up of cadmium and selenide. So, what do you guys think? We talked about how companies use applied research in order to develop a brighter, more vivid, and a more efficient television by replacing the phosphorus layer within the television with the nanomaterial called quantum dots. We briefly discussed about what quantum dots are, and then I got to show you how they're made by taking you to a lab at an academic institution that's specialized in making nanomaterials. Let me know what you guys want to see next time. Would you like to tour a physics lab? Would you like to tour an engineering lab? Or are you still interested in chemistry? I hope to hear from you guys soon. You can contact me at Phuture Doctors on Twitter as well as Instagram. I'll be posting more content soon and giving you guys more information about how you guys can get involved in research. But for now, I'll see you guys next time. My name's Stephanie, and this was Phuture Doctors.